What's more painful than being the Republican nominee for president after 8 years of the Bush administration during the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression? I'll tell you, my friends, it's realizing that you've been suffering from PTSD for the last 40 years. Eh? Shh. So, John McCain on Wednesday at a stump speech kind of rally, when he was supposed to say blah blah blah, financial economy, blah blah blah, my fellow citizens, instead of saying my fellow citizens, he said blah 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 economy, my fellow prisoners. It was a Freudian slip. And there might be people out there who want to say, oh, that's just McCain. Or, you know, well, Obama said 57 states. He said 57 states once at one of his speeches. Joe Biden, he told a man in a wheelchair to stand up. What a dolt. Look at that flub. All politicians do it. This is different. We need to realize that this is different. And the reasons why it's different is because, as we have said here on Unification Now, please look at some of the videos in the response box below this video. You know, we talked about the fact that he has PTSD and that he has not emotionally resolved his pain of what he went through. What he went through was hell. Hell. That takes deep recovery. You know, like deep tissue massage. You know, you really have to get in there to massage that muscle. Well, that's like, you know, deep wounds, torture. Freaking torture. John McCain hasn't worked through his stuff. He just hasn't. And I think a lot of people are beginning to tune into that. I think it's on a soul level. It's like his spirit is saying, hey world, I still got issues. I mean, that's how we sabotage ourselves, is through saying and doing things that call attention to what our problem is. And then people either reject us or we don't get what we want. When I saw it, I just felt like this huge jolt of energy, just like right into my heart. I felt sad. My eyes watered up, and I thought, wow, you know, to campaign and to do speeches over and over and over again. It's like some part of John McCain genuinely wants to be president, or he wouldn't do this. You know, there is a part of him that believes what he says and thinks that he's going to make a change. I mean, he's not a monster. And so part of his, I think part of the thing that keeps him going and doing the tediousness of speeches and things like that and getting fired up is that same part of him that was able to endure and survive the torture prison. And it's understood that he was, you know, very noble in relationship to his fellow prisoners. And so when he says my fellow citizen, in a sense, we are in this with him. He's doing this for us. He stayed back, I want to say like 5 years longer. I could be totally wrong on that. But he could have got released and he decided to stay because they weren't going to release any of the other prisoners. So he sacrificed his freedom for a time and sacrificed the comfort of his body and the safety of his body to be to show support and commitment to these other people. And so I think that John McCain has a little bit of a martyr complex that he still carries around, and that's why he gets so angry. Like, martyrs are most useful when it comes to, you know, dying or whatever. But if you're a living martyr, then more than likely your martyrdom's not going to be appreciated by everybody. People aren't going to all, you know, most people won't know what you did to sacrifice and be a martyr. Some people won't care. In the case of John McCain, it's like, well, yeah, Republicans and people who are all pro-war think that what he did was just amazing and great and he's a war hero, and so all hail John McCain. But there's a lot of other people who think, well, you know, we shouldn't have been in Vietnam to begin with, just like we shouldn't be in Iraq. And we shouldn't, you know, he could have come home. And his commitment, that commitment to that military mindset of standing by your brother and all of that, I mean, it's very noble in the human one-on-one, soldier-to-soldier context, but in the context of the larger picture, it shouldn't even exist. You know, fucking military code of conduct and brotherhood and all of that. It shouldn't exist. It won't always exist. And so that's why it's important for people who've been in the military, you know, who've served in wars, to work through their stuff, because that war mentality is only useful in war. A prisoner mentality is only useful if you're in prison. But if you're going to be free and you're going to be progressive in your thinking and move life in this world forward to a better place, you've got to let go of the past. But if you're still suppressing the pain and the torture and the agony and the fear and the shame and the resentment, you know, deep down inside, I think John McCain resents people. He maybe resented his fellow prisoners. Maybe there were times when he regretted it and he thought, fuck, I wish I would have just gone home. And so if he doesn't look at his shadow of what he went through, there's too much focus on the light. Oh, hero, you're a hero. Ah, all hail John McCain for being a war hero. It's all true, it's all valid, and I appreciate it. I really do. But at the same time, there's a shadow side that we have to look at. Otherwise, it's going to be leading our country. His shadow side, his war mentality is going to lead our country because he hasn't worked through his war stuff. That's why there's still so much war. All these people, all these old fucking people, mainly like older men who've only had their experience of life, and their experience of life has been like business, economy, war. Business, economy, war. It's like that's all they know, and they're too fucking busy to stop and smell the flowers and to tune into the other half of life that isn't about that. That's why self-examination is so important. Otherwise, you act out your unresolved stuff in life. And that's true on the individual level, and on the global level, that is true too. And so John McCain's individual stuff could be acted out in the global sense, and I don't think we want that. I think that John McCain has proven himself to be someone who uses jokes as a way of managing his image. And I think a lot of times people who have deep feelings of anger or hurt or resentment will use jokes as a way to mask all that dark, ugly stuff that they don't want to own within themselves. They don't want to see themselves as that. And so they joke. But then, you know, that's still there. It can be easily triggered. And then that's when you have an outburst or an explosion. And McCain has been known for flying off the handle. Well, people who fly off the handle and rage like that, you know, when that anger comes back down and it's not so aggravated anymore, they might have some regret, but usually the amount of their regret is equal to how the people around them react and respond. And so I think with John McCain, being a war hero, being a politician, the arena of politics being so full of enabling each other's crap, you know? And so he's had a lot of yes men around him who have not called him out on his stuff. Otherwise, he wouldn't still do that. And I don't have proof that he's exploded recently, but I do have proof that he's using jokes to hide disdainment and resentment and an ugly kind of energy that I can see very clearly. So that makes me think he's probably still exploding periodically. But that's going to be hush, hush. It's okay. You know, they can't control the past. These people already are talking about it, but they can control the immediate environment around him. So I'm not 100% convinced that McCain is not still a rager. And I don't think he has had enough people say, you got to stop. Deal with your shit. Deal with your PTSD. PTSD is real. It's fucking trippy when you think about a presidential candidate slipping up and saying, my fellow prisoners. And especially when we have felt like prisoners to George W. Bush. And I think that McCain has felt like a prisoner to the neocon party. I mean, he's a maverick, but he ain't that mavericky, to quote Tina Fey. You know, it's like he's not, in the big scheme of things, a maverick at all. I think the last thing that I would want to add in terms of just putting out into the universe what I would like to see happen is that this thing gets picked up and people start talking about it, talking about it, talking about it. It's so intense. My fellow prisoners, it's intense. But what I would like to see is him be vulnerable. That if he could just be vulnerable about his experience of being a prisoner of war and showing some humanity and some humility and some vulnerability about who he is as a person, not as a fucking politician. And I don't know if he can do that because he's been a politician for a long time. And so who is John McCain as a man who went through what he went through? And if he could share that, that would be goddamn beautiful. So yeah, so those are my thoughts, and I want to put out to you all the question of what do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to acknowledge this or just ignore it? If he does acknowledge it, if you think that his campaign will eventually comment on it, do you think that they're going to be honest about it and you know, kind of disclose more about what was really going on for him at that moment? Or do you think that they're just going to be kind of traditional politicians? And then the other question is, if you were McCain, what would you do? You know, how would you handle it if you were in McCain's position, mind, body, and that kind of thing? So yeah, so I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say. And for now, that's all.
Let's cut out the melodrama so we can wake up the whole wide world. Let's make up and start all over and awaken the boys and the girls.